Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to my 10 minutes talk where I will demystify Vue.js hydration. Thanks a lot for a great intro, Jen. I appreciate it a lot, and definitely check out the podcast. So, well, what you see right now is, it's kind of blank, right? It's nothing, because that's how your console should look like, and not like this here. These weird error messages, maybe let's make it a little bigger. Yeah, you might have seen them, like type error, can't access, property, parent node, T is undefined, or another one, very common as well, also make it a little bit bigger here. Parent mismatching child nodes versus v nodes. Yeah, no idea what it is. And that makes me a little grumpy. But the good thing is we have a look into that and figure out what these error messages are, what they mean, and how to fix and to avoid them. So welcome to my talk, Vue.js Hydration Demystified here at Frontend Nation 2024. All right. I don't have to say that much about me because it was a great intro from Jen, as I mentioned before. I'm a web engineering consultant by day, a speaker, instructor, podcast host. As we see here, giving talks, giving workshops as well, and hosting Deja Vu once a week. I'm at the Nuxt.js team as well. So I, of course, love the talks of Sebastian and Daniel today. Love to see a bit of WASM, and Edge is always nice anyway. I'm doing some educational content on YouTube, for example, streaming every now and then, and tweeting if it fits. I have a blog, which I should post more, and I might will in the future, and also GitHub. But now let's cut the chase and get to the topic. Because, well, the big question is, do you out there, do you use SSR? If not, well, that's great, because I envy you a little bit. You don't ever have to bother with hydration errors. So that's pretty cool if you don't need SSR, so you don't have any issues with hydration. But now you might wonder, okay, wait, but what is hydration actually? What does it mean? Well, let's think about that. Let's start pretty simple with like the client does a request to the server, right? And what the client should get is like the HTML, the inline CSS, and some state, right? If you like request your Vue application with server-side rendering, the whole thing renders on the server, has some state, some API calls fetched, and then, well, it gets all the things over. And now you see the content, that's great, but it's not interactive yet. The site is visible. And what happens now is that, well, Vue has to initialize, maybe Nuxt as well if you use Nuxt, right? We have to download the JavaScript, we have to run it, and we have to make everything reactive, right? Attach some listeners, and basically your application has to do the same on the client as on the server, like run through from top to bottom and initialize itself. And then at that point, the site is interactive. And maybe then like some logic comes in for the client side stuff, like the on-mounted and on-before mount and so on and so on. So hydration is the thing between the two red bars. That's the hydration process. And it can be quite costly because, well, as said before, runs on the server, gets moved over, and then runs all the way on the client. So the bigger application, the more costly it is. But now you might wonder, well, that seems pretty straightforward, Alex. So how exactly can that fail? And the simple answer is, well, if the server sends something, the client expects something different. So we have different state on the server and client. And once again, you might wonder, okay, but how exactly is this a thing? Like, how can that happen? Well, the first one is invalid HTML. Right? Like if we have, for example, this little snippet, we all see, we're all developers who write semantic HTML, right? Would never do something else, never have a click listener or a div or something. Please don't. The div inside a P is not valid, so that's a problem. But the good thing is the browser is very lenient. The browser says, it's fine, don't worry, I'll fix it for you. The problem is Vue is expecting that exact node there, but the browser fixes it for you because it's not valid. And well, things will crash. So, of course, Vue thinks there is a div inside, there is no div inside, can't match the server HTML with the one the client would generate. So, all explodes. What's the solution here? Well, write semantic HTML, of course, and validate your HTML. For example, with HTML validator, there's a lovely Nuxt package from Daniel, for example, which you can integrate and make sure that it's all valid. Otherwise, you get some warnings. Of course, there are also some other tools where you can just like put your HTML in and check it, but that's the automated solution. And another thing why things can fail, scripts manipulating your HTML. Very similar idea, but slightly different. So if you have something like that, it's, for example, for my website, you see these weird comments, right? Like these weird parentheses, like these like square brackets. What's that? Well, that's actually pretty important. And if there's scripts saying, hey, we want to minify your HTML, we want to automatically make everything better, they might remove it. And that causes problems because Vue is using these comments for separators, like for, okay, which elements are certain elements in v4 or slots and so on and so on. So these are actually necessary. And some scripts, for example, Cloudflare's auto optimize, which will be removed in the future, I learned, which is really great, they can cause problems. So it would be really good to deactivate that, because these placeholder comments that we've seen before, they're necessary, and otherwise, once again, hydration issues. All right. Then scripts manipulating HTML, easy solution, as I said, just disable them, just remove them. It's fine. We can live without them. That's great. And then there's one more. I mean, there are tons of, but let's go for one more at least. Different data on the server and on the client. So let's say we have a ref with a random value. That's pretty cool. But the problem is that randomness that will be re-evaluated on the client and on the server, and the chances that this will match, pretty low. So of course here, that won't work. What we need to do instead, well, we should convert it. We should transfer it from the server to client. So there is a way to say, okay, in Nuxt, for example, use state, give it in the key, generate it once, and then move it over so the client has the same random number as the server, and all is good. And one last thing is, when you use import a meta.client, for example, checking for auth, you shouldn't really do that, because, well, then you more or less force hydration errors. So instead, just use the good old on before mount or unmounted instead of import a meta.client, and you're also good. So let's say you have an off check, only local storage, just check it on before mount or unmounted, and things will be fine. And of course, there are lots of other cases we can't go through in details, like a long list, long scenarios. But these are like the most common ones. And the good thing is you can debug them, right? Like before it was a bit of a pain, we've seen it before, but since Vue 3.4, it's really a pleasure, because they will actually tell you there is a hydration text content mismatch on that element. On the server, this is rendered on the client that. It's from the example just straight away. So that's pretty cool. We see exactly what's happening. And the good thing is you can even enable them in production if you want to, with this compiler flag shown there. Or with debug true in Nuxt. So maybe don't do it for a production side, but for a staging side, that totally makes sense. So definitely, if you look at that, so you catch these hydration errors before they go into prod, I can recommend that. And there's also a Nuxt hydration module from core team member Julian Huang, also worth testing. So that's yet another thing. But now you might wonder, okay, hydration, can we somehow avoid that if it's costly, if it's like error prone? Can we do something there? And well, the answer is, yeah, but not really. We can just say no JavaScript. Haha, jokes on me. I know. But you can do this. You can use features, no script, or the feature flag or route rule in Nuxt to say this page, no JavaScript. I use it as well, for example, for the Deja Vu website you've seen before in Jen's screen. So it works. It's nice, especially for a small landing page. But the problem, well, we want interactivity. We want an SPA. So yeah, you can add JavaScript through like Vanilla.js, through like UseHead, but it's more a workaround. So not ideal, especially not for your highly interactive SPA. Then you can say, like, wait, you render everything in the HTML, so why can't we take it from there? The problem is we can't really, mainly because, well, there is not everything the markup. For some easy cases, it might be the case, but the state cannot always be inferred from the HTML. So that also doesn't work. But you can do two things. You can decide what should be hydrated and when. Let's have a very brief overview about what, which is called partial hydration, right? You have things like Astro or Eels.js, so like we have islands that are interactive, and the rest is static. That's really cool. So only hydrate what actually needs to be interactive. And that's great for like static, content-heavy sites, right? That's the what part, for example. The when is another thing. It's called progressive or lazy hydration or late hydration. So let's say, okay, let's just wait with the hydration of certain elements until later point. So when, for example, the user is activating, is clicking something, is scrolling, and so on and so on. And that improves the initial loading time, but it can also cause some problems if you do it not in a good way, because there's another metric called INP, interaction next pane. So if people click on a button and it takes ages because it needs to hydrate, that's not good either for a website. The good thing is, well, there's, for example, Nuxt delay hydration module, also a Vue delay hydration package on NPM. So it might be worth taking a look at that. And last but not least, what if, let's imagine a world. Let's imagine a world where we could render components only on the server. We wouldn't need hydration, and they could still be interactive. And also still render interactive client-side components in there. And, well, spoiler alert, Nuxt can do that with Nuxt server components, aka reversed islands, right? We talked about islands briefly before. This is the other way around. So we have these parts that are more or less, it's an experimental feature, and we have interactive components, but they're rendered on the server, right? We do more or less an HTML, an API call, returning HTML from our Nuxt and Nitro server, and it's inserted, so no hydration is needed. The good part is, if some props change, they can still be interactive. We just need another call to the whole API that will be done automatically from Nuxt. And we can even have slots or components inside that can be fully client. So we don't have to render everything on a server then, just like certain parts, they have some slots or some other components, and they're the typical components that will work fine as an SPA. Awesome. So I would love to tell you also what's next in terms of hydration in Vue, but the time is slowly running out. So instead, I tell you some recommendations here for a better experience with Vue and Nuxt in terms of hydration. Nuxt delay hydration until there's native support, which will come in Vue at some point. Lazy hydration is coming, yes, to the core. Nuxt hydration, Julian's module to debug hydration mismatches, and also validating HTML, very important. Plus, it's always nice to have error logging or tracking with a service of your choice. TLDR, hydration is necessary when using Vue and SSR. Hydration mismatches can happen due to various reasons, but it can be debugged, they can be fixed very easy now since Vue 3.4, so I'm really, really happy about that. And, well, we can improve the whole hydration part with modules and also server components. So future improvements are planned, but I think that's it from my side, and I hope I could demystify your hydration. Last but not least, thanks to my sponsors, and thanks for your attention. That's it from me. Thanks.